All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on? Wins a lot. Sean Sullivan, Little Neck, Jason, Ricky, Wardo, Jay, Takedown, Little Neck again, Jason. What's going on, everybody? Eric's in here as well, and my man Rio, of course. Very nice getting back talking with the NBA GOAT. A nice 8-game slate. Giannis versus Wemby. I don't think you can draw a little better one-on-one matchup right there. Also, little Philly chalk night. A little interesting, but 8 games on the slate. Doesn't lock too late the last game, 9:30 Eastern, not a 10 Eastern, something like that. So very excited over here. 8 games, FanDuel, DraftKings, easy bets, Lachlan, Big Ed. Appreciate everyone hanging out. All we ask, like button, subscribe button helps us out a ton. We're going to waste no time. Rio, how are you doing on this fine Wednesday afternoon?
Yeah, I'm doing good. This is a really, really good slate, in my opinion. And you missed the Cleveland OKC game. That's a huge one tonight. I think those are the TNT games. I'm expecting OKC, Cleveland, and then San Antonio and Milwaukee. Always have a little bit more interest in those nationally televised games. Yeah, so those are the 2 nationally televised games tonight, which always interesting because you get those longer TV timeouts and you can kind of get some more minutes from those stars. But I mean, outside of that, this should be a really, really fun game. 2 of the best teams in the league facing off, OKC and Cleveland, and then obviously the matchup with Wemby and Giannis kind of highlights everything for the night. But yeah, really, really solid 8-game slate. Got the mega 8s tonight, the 250K up top. Hopefully, I know BJ's got a couple in there. I'm not sure if you have any, but I know a couple members have some. And then I got 10 in there tonight, so hopefully can take that down.
Yeah, this man a little down here, a little too rich. I myself have none. I grinded the satellites last year. I blanked, I think, every single one I did. So I told myself, stick with what I'm good at. Cash games, and I have been in the MME street. So right now I got 100 on FanDuel. A solid $8 2. I debated which one, $6 FanDuel, $8 DraftKings. I've been so tilted lately. 3rd, 4th, 5th, the bridesmaid. I said, I got to hop over to FanDuel, see if something else changes. But, of course, in the streets, we'll be looking for your name up top, Ricky. Is Jokic playing? We will get to that, but there is a lot of Q tags. I will say from the top, because I did ask Rio that yesterday, or before the show, yesterday he missed with an illness. Based on the odds, they are at home and they're underdogs. So according to Rio, and it makes a lot of sense, he didn't think Denver would be underdogs at home if Jokic was playing. So that's a little sneak peek. But of course, we go game by game, talk all the injuries. Yes, Cheetah, BJ, or member got to ship the 888 today. I wanted to shout out Ben. Stay strong, Ben. That's a lot going on right there. We appreciate you hanging out, always in the chat, so we really do appreciate it. Stay strong there. Wanted to shout out 2 people. Sean Sullivan yesterday, really close, great team. Keep grinding, Sean. I know you had the big one, the 50K, but him and then Jay Anthony, that man has absolutely been on fire in the Showdown streets. Do have Showdown content, no better in the business than Rio. BJ, Showdown slate plan when the contests are big enough. Rio does the slate plan, tags everybody in chat as well. Slate plan's already up for the main slate. I do the catch report, GPP core report, BJ, Rio, Ham. Again, all the team absolutely crushing it. Projections, ownership, updated throughout the night. We are showing off the stone. We do have the stone for all the sports. PGA, the real one back the first week. I know Century last week, kind of a joke. This week, No Cut is back this week. DGen, the live stream tonight. Very excited for that. Hoop and Tambo went live yesterday. Right here, I know this isn't a PGA show, but we have no better team, or there's no better PGA team in the industry than ours. And if you do want to get in for all the sports, NBA, MMA is back this week, and next week, big boy card. Can't wait for that, Rio. NASCAR, I think, will be back shortly. NFL still going on. This promo, PGA 100, gets you our $100 off the annual package through the Super Bowl next year. Again, every single sport. Very exciting stuff coming up. That's all I'm going to say, but no better time to get in. If you do want Shiptimizer, that is also available. PGA 100 gets you $100 off your annual package. We do, of course, have weekly, monthly, 6-month package as well. All do include the Discord except the weekly. Anybody else staying here? Jay Anthony. Yeah, Jay Anthony's been absolutely hot. Is there a showdown slate planned tonight? I didn't look at the contest reel.
Yeah, they have a 100K prize pool, so we'll have some content up set for that tonight.
Nice. There we go. BJ. Oh, absolutely been crushing it over there. Shout out to BJ. Good luck to you tonight. Easy Bets, I said hi. Lyle, I said hi. I think that is every single person I covered before we go game by game. Again, I mean, man, I give you so much props. You break down every single niche thing, every single player when we go game, so I don't want to waste too much time to the start. I'm always like 6 games in. I'm like, man, I got to shut up and let Rio go because we go overtime, which I absolutely love. But any initial thoughts before we go game by game, or you want to jump right into it?
Yeah, I think we just jump right in. I don't really have too much off the top. I see some pretty clear game environments I want to attack, and then some really good values on the slate. So I think it's kind of straightforward type slate. Last night was a little bit different. We hit on some pretty good ones with the Porzingis call that BJ was all over, and then the LaMelo pivot off of Trae Young, which didn't really end up mattering because I believe both those guys were on the winner. But yeah, I think we just get right into it. Yeah, he was. For
sure. That was a great play. Had some wanted OT, man. Trae buried. I know a lot of people wanted OT. Sexton ties it up, and Trae hits the half quarter. 2 things, too. Zion, man, it is always fun to see him in open court. The 360 yank back. That was sick. And hey, Brown still got it over Lively, almost like swish hands. The left hand, that was really fun. Basketball's heating up a little bit. Christmas Day, obviously the ratings all down. They're saying all that. Christmas Day was a lot of fun, but some of these games, like I'm really, that Thunder Cavs game and then Giannis Wemby, I'm really, really looking forward to. Appreciate that, Russell. It's bittersweet. I almost get pissed when I'd rather lose money sometimes, but one of these days it's coming. Ricky, doing my job. I appreciate that. 2 seconds, little timeout, 30-seconder, like button, subscribe button right now before we get into it. There we go. I appreciate it. Let's go. First game of the night, Rio. We already hinted at it. Big boy game. Thunder and the Cavs, 2 of the best teams in the NBA. 2.5-point favorites are the Cavs. Injury report in this one. I love it. Nothing on the OKC side. Isaac Okoro, cardio master. Q-tag on the Cavs side does not mean much to me. I know I'm still tilting from his rookie year like 4 years ago when I played him. He had 44 minutes in overtime. Somehow got negative points and scored me 3.7. I will never forget that moment, but started off right away at Thunder Cavs. Obviously, some big names. If you do want to spend, SGA, D. Mitch, Mobley's got a solid price tag. J-Dub, what are you doing in this one?
Yeah, hinted at it off the top. This is definitely going to be a game that I have my my eyes glued to the TV. I'm not sure exactly how much ownership I'm going to get or exposure I'm going to get to this game because both these teams top of the league in offense and defense this season. Cavs first in offensive rating, 8 in defense, and the OKC is opposite. They're first in defense and 8th in offense this season. I think this could be a possible finals matchup if both these teams can stay healthy and build off of the strong regular season. But yeah, this game I could see it playing out lower scoring, but at the same time, like sometimes 2 really good teams, the good offenses can just trump really good defenses. I can see that happening as well. But OKC kind of takes away what Cleveland does best. Their pick and roll defense has been really good. OKC is number 1 in pick and roll defense by a pretty wide margin. I believe they're averaging single digit points per game in the pick and roll situation. Definitely much more vulnerable with their catch and shoot defense, and their offensive rebounding continues to be a pretty big issue there. But their transition defense is really good. Another area of strength for the Cleveland offense. And then Cleveland defensively a little bit worse in some areas, mainly their 3-point defense, but their on-ball stuff has been pretty good. Dean Wade, really, really solid on-ball defender. Max Strus, pretty solid. Okoro, Cardio King, still really good defender though. But yeah, I mean, I could see this game going 2 ways. Like I mentioned, I think on the OKC side, a lot of these guys are in play. The TV timeouts could really push up the minutes for a guy like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and as good as the Cavs have been defensively, they're dead last in isolation defense this season. Shai 3rd in ISO scoring this season. We've seen the minutes really get pushed up in a big way for Shai. You saw him play 39 against Boston, and now a game where they're going to have longer timeouts. I really could see him get into 40 minutes tonight in a game that doesn't really mean much for the season outlook, but is a game that would be really like a big bragging rights for OKC coming off of really big wins on the road against the Knicks and against Boston. So yeah, I think Shai is a pretty solid spend up. I'm going to be running him at like 40-minute projection and seeing what I get there. I'd be okay if I had like 10% or if I had like 25%, because I think that the range for him is pretty wide, and he's got a really solid floor because we know he's going to get his bucket. So yeah, I definitely like Shea a lot. Don't like the matchup at all for J-Dub or Isaiah Hartenstein. I think from just like a game environment standpoint, you could definitely play them. Jalen Williams, the usage has been really low since Hartenstein's been in the starting lineup, so I'm a little bit less interested in him. Matchup's going to be really tough against Evan Mobley, so I think that he's probably my least favorite play in OKC. Hartenstein, really just hoping that he can get there with a double-double and like really efficient rebounding, which hasn't really been the strong suit for OKC. Jared Allen, one of the better rebounders in the league, so I don't really see a huge ceiling case for him, but if he's going to play like 36 minutes tonight, then he's a really solid permanent producer, so I think that he'd be okay. And then Dort, Wallace, and Wiggins are all in play tonight. I'll probably be max 2 of those groups because I could see Wiggins, if he gets hot, he's going to eat into one of those guys. It's more likely Case and Wallace that he'd be eating into. But all 3 of these guys should have pretty decent roles, definitely going to be needed for defense on guys like Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. And they both have or all 3 have the capability of getting hot from 3-point range. And it's really good prices on them. 4K for Dort is really good. 3.7K for Wallace is pretty solid, and he's playing starter, 30-plus minutes, which is hard to come by in the 3K range. And then same thing for Wiggins. Like he's probably the best permanent producer of the group, but the minutes are will fluctuate more on a nightly basis for him. But he's the most likely to get into like the mid-30s if he does see those minutes creep up to like 20 to or 25 to like 28, something like that. On the Cleveland side, definitely less interested in this side with how good OKC is defensively, but I do think that there is some upside on guys like Mitchell and Evan Mobley. Mitchell, the matchup's going to be really tough against Lou Dort. I have seen a lot of people compare Lou Dort to like a football player. He gets away with a lot of contact, but definitely makes the game a lot more interesting seeing him out there and just kind of like playing physical defense. But yeah, the pick and roll defense for OKC, like I mentioned, really good. So I could see it being tough for Mitchell from a scoring aspect there, but the minutes have been really down. So I think that projections are kind of light on him. I think there's some like hidden upside for him if we see those minutes get pushed up, because he hasn't they're just blowing teams out left and right. They don't need to play these guys a ton of minutes. And we've seen there was a stretch in like November or like early December where he was playing 35, 36 minutes. So same thing for SGA. Got to run him a few minutes higher than his current minute projection, and I think that he's pretty solid at 8.4K. Evan Mobley, I just like the role for him. He's getting a lot of front court touches. The assist numbers have been pretty solid. Last month he had a really strong month of December, 18.8 points per game, right around 8 rebounds and 3 assists per game. So really solid floor ceiling combo there. Don't like the matchup as much for Darius Garland, but I do like the coach speak about wanting to get him to shoot the ball more. Probably just lean the upside for Mitchell a little bit, but I think that Garland's pretty much as good of a play as Donovan Mitchell. Definitely would be max 1 of those 2, max 1 Mobley and Allen. And I think Allen is pretty solid. Could see those minutes get creeped up a little bit for the matchup against Isaiah Hartenstein, but definitely less upside versus Mobley. And I think LeVert is probably still a decent GPP play, just buying into this game environment, shooting out in a big way. And then same for Strus and Dean Wade. I'd be max 1 of LeVert, Strus, and Dean Wade. All those guys can get hot at times. There is a lot better value in the slate, so I don't want to tie up too much ownership in this game. More so like the guys up top.
Yeah, so a couple things. Hartenstein, just say, I tell you he gets 38 DraftKings points. That's what he has at the end of the night. What percent do you think you'd have him?
Probably even with the field. I'd probably just be even with the field. I don't think that's going to be enough tonight. Yeah,
then it's really hard. Like, I do think, because like I think he very well could play 38 minutes in the spot. They definitely need his size. Usage is so low though. Like, he really needs that double-double, like you're saying. I'm looking at some of the recent ones, like 41, 42, 43. Like, that's his upside. And he's very consistent. But, yeah, on this 8-game slate, you probably want more than 38. I don't see myself getting there too much. The more you talk about it, the more I really don't love this game. The SGA call, for sure. And, like, man, D. Mitch's minutes have been so down. Even if you give him 6 more minutes, like 34, 35, you got to do something in this slate. Like, there's Giannis. There's some big boy names, SGA himself right in the same game. Obviously 8-4 is a little discount, but there's just so many mouths to feed on this Cavs team. Like, I think my favorite ways to go outside of SGA, which you definitely talked me into boosting him a little bit, is the value. Is LeVert, Kaysen Wallace, Dort. Wiggins is fine at 3-2, but let me ask you this. Like, how do you compare those guys to a couple popular value I'm looking at is like Stephen Castle, Brandon Boston, Jared Butler, Noah Clowney, I guess, is a little bit like, how do you compare? Obviously, the position on Clowney is different, but how do you compare the Dorts, the Wiggins, the LeVerts of the world to some of those guys?
Yeah, I would say they're all pretty distant, like fourth, fifth options in comparison to like Castle and Brandon Boston. Just with those guys expected to start tonight and play a ton of minutes, I think there's just a little bit more upside on Boston and Castle. Maybe like Wallace is a decent pivot off of Castle because it's kind of a similar situation. Like you have high usage guys in the lineup on San Antonio like Chris Paul, Devin Vassell, and Wemby compared to SGA, Jalen Williams, and Hardenstein. I'd say it's mainly just SGA dominating the usage. So there might be a little bit like it might be even upside for Wallace and Castle, but I do think that just like a straight up play, Castle is probably the better option. But I mean, it's an ownership thing. Like if Wallace is going to be a third of the ownership, does Stephon Castle really outscore him 66% of the time or whatever? Like probably not. Maybe like closer to 50% of the time. So
that's where you go like in chalkier lineups. Then you go like a Wallace or pivot that way. Castle when you're already getting a low owned pivot. Like if you were to go a D Mitch, a Mobley, something like that. Even SGA, like we got him at 13%. Like is there any harm in playing an SGA and Wallace together? I rarely group away stuff like that too much. SGA is going to get his. Like Wallace, like you said, more competing with the Wiggins, the Dorts of the world. So that's kind of how I look at it. Castle and less chalkier when you're already different teams, and Wallace and chalkier teams.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with that. It might be like a max one J-Dub and Hardenstein situation because I feel like when you're getting those ceiling games from J-Dub, it's probably due to him having a spike in rebounding. Yeah. That
makes a lot of sense. Man, it's tough looking at the J-Dub, like what he's done recently for 8.3K. The more you talked about it, like I don't love the spends. The SGA call for sure, and I do like you add a couple more minutes, like boost to these guys from projections. That does go a pretty long way. Excuse me. And not many do stuff like that. So yeah, SGA, Wallace, Dort, LeVert, probably my favorite plays in this one. Hartenstein, like I wanted to get to because, man, a center playing maybe 37 minutes at that price tag is appealing and they need a size. But yeah, you're probably right. 38, 40, probably not enough to win a GPP today. So I got really nothing more to add. Mr. Mike Daddy, I appreciate that. Hope everything's going well with you. Jake, I'm usually always here on Wednesdays and then starting in 2 weeks with the NFL winding down. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you will see Rio and I on this show. So we'll have you covered Monday through Friday with shows. Him, BJ will be Monday, Friday. Rio and myself, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So you will see plenty of me on the NBA shows. Your nickname J-Dub too? That's funny, Justin. Weird having someone else. He's watching on TV. Think we're talking about him. That's sweet. What's going on, Brian? Hey, we'll be in the building. If you're in the building, let us know. I know Connor hit me up. He wants to meet up too. So
Wardo too. Wardo is just down the street, so we should probably try to meet up with all the guys.
There we go. So you just got to buy a ticket, and then, or not, maybe not even. We'll probably go somewhere around the stadium. Rio knows the area more. We can let people know. But yeah, always like saying hi to people out there. I hesitate sometimes. You never know how many weirdos though. But I trust the Shipping Nation crew. I have not been disappointed yet meeting anyone in real life. There's Wardo. Appreciate you as well, Luis. Let's get to the next game on the slate. Definitely some injury important Q tags in this one. Chicago Bulls, Indiana Pacers. Pacers 6-point favorites, 242.5 total. I did want to mention this is by far the biggest total, 242.5. You didn't mention defense in that last one though. It's pretty much tied for the second biggest total on the slate with the Raptors Knicks that we're going to get to. So definitely should be defense played, but obviously both these teams so well-versed in so many positions. Vegas does expect some points to be put up. So this one, the highest total on the slate, though. Nothing on the Chicago side to worry about. Indiana, we have two Q tags, two very important ones. Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner. My man Tyrese, now your man Tyrese, because he won you 100K. 3% on Tyrese. That was awesome to see. Any leans on the Q takes from Turner, Tyrese, and then go from there and break down this game?
Yeah, I think Tyrese is probably more likely to play than not. He rolled up his ankle in the second half of the last game, played through it. I think he only missed like a handful of minutes, but played through it. Ankles are kind of tricky because they can get worse with time, especially like only a couple days removed from having it. But I would expect him probably to play. Spread would definitely be closer if he weren't playing. I was turning a little bit more cautious about him playing, though. The illness tag has been kind of like running through the NBA right now, and it's keeping guys out for extended period of time. We saw RJ Barrett miss like 2 weeks. We saw Koulibaly miss a while. So yeah, that's definitely a big one. I think if he were to miss, would make sense to get Thomas Bryant into the starting lineup just for the size of Vucevic, but it could be Obi Toppin. I think that Vuce is enough of a perimeter guy now at this point of his career that Toppin could probably hang with him, or you can even toss like Siakam on him. I think that matchup makes a lot of sense. And Thomas Bryant, I don't know, man, he's just been pretty bad this season. So I probably wouldn't anticipate a ton of minutes from Bryant if Turner were to miss, but if he's starting, would be very tough to overlook at that price tag. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely the game environment, like probably the best game environment on the slate tonight, outside of maybe that first one, maybe the Portland and Pelicans one is pretty good too. But both it seems pretty big issues with their defense. The Bulls continue to play really fast. They're top 3 in pace this season. Pacers are picking things up, kind of getting back to normal Pacers basketball. Their defense actually been pretty solid in the starting unit, but taking away Miles Turner would definitely have a big impact on their rim defense. The rim defense has still been pretty bad. Their 3-point defense a lot worse this season than it was last year. Remember last year they're just a huge rim funnel and not giving up any 3-pointers. A little bit different this season. But with Andrew Nembhard in there, their pick and roll defense has been really good. So harder for the guards to get there, in my opinion, on whoever is going to be defended by Andrew Nembhard. The Bulls, like I said, really bad rim defense. Their transition defense not that great, but also bottom 5 in pick and roll defense. They really just don't have any good on-ball defenders right now. I think like their best one outside of Ayo is probably Torrey Craig, and he's out. And in the starting lineup, I mean, they really have nobody, and really nobody in the second unit outside of maybe Lonzo Ball. But the coach speak about him being limited to around 24 minutes moving forward. So yeah, it should be a pretty good spot for the guards on the Pacers side. But starting with the Bulls, matchup is pretty good for Vooch. I could see him having success against Miles Turner or against Thomas Bryant, whoever it is going to be guarding him. Double-doubles in 5 straight games. But this is just a really expensive price tag to pay for Vooch. I really don't see a need to go there. Like I could see guys that are 2K cheaper matching his production. So probably a full X out on Vooch for me. Have to see how the builds look, but like DeAndre Ayton is 2.4K cheaper in a really good matchup. I'd rather just play him. I'd rather play Hartenstein. I'd rather play Zubac. Like there's a lot of guys I'd play ahead of Nikola Vucevic right now at this price tag. Probably needed to be in like the upper 7Ks to play him. Zach LaVine, though, on the other hand, he's been really good in the new year. Scored 32 or more real points in 3 straight games, 43 plus DK points in all those games. The shot volume is way up. Probably going to be avoiding Andrew Nembhard on defense. I think they'll probably put Bennett Mathurin on him, which should be a lot easier of a matchup. And we've seen wing scorers against Indy really have a lot of success against them, as they are much better against lead guards. So I think that, getting deep into this game, if you have a couple Indy pieces, which you're definitely going to want to have some in this game for sure. I could see some correlated back and forth with LaVine and like a Halliburton type correlation makes a lot of sense to me. I think LaVine, like, did they play the Wolves a couple days ago? It was San Antonio. I think it was like a back and forth between LaVine and Wemby. That would have been like a nice correlated game stack.
No, Wemby missed 8 fucking shots in the fourth quarter or something. Got me past. Screw Wemby. Just kidding. But he was tilting. He says at 63 the whole fourth. Yeah,
that's always the worst. That's always the worst when your guy's crushing and then you're just like, oh, he's going to get like 75. And then he just.
I didn't even think I had to worry about Wemby. I was too worried about Najee. Next thing you know, these other clowns are passing me up. But yeah, it turns out I did need him. But yeah, it was that game there. LaVine absolutely nuked. Past couple of games, when he has his games, man, he definitely has a ceiling.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that the rule I would be setting, I don't think you need to have a Chicago bring back, but I would definitely want an Indy bring back if I play any Chicago main piece. Like anybody from Kobe White up to Vooch, I definitely want somebody on Indy on the bring back for sure. I would definitely I'll get some LaVine tonight, and I think that he makes sense, like pairing him with Hallie or with Siakam or Mathurin for a little bit cheaper with upside makes a lot of sense tonight. So I like Levine. Don't really like this guards. The minutes have been okay for Giddey, but I don't know. Maybe this is a spot. Maybe it's a Giddey spot. He's probably going to get defended by Tyrese Halliburton, which would be a really good matchup for him. We know he's got the upside, just can pop off for a triple-double out of nowhere.
You
really
rank Kobe White last? Levine, Giddey, Kobe White?
I like White a little bit better than Giddey, just because I know the minutes are going to be there, and he's out of the shooting slump. Matchup is probably the toughest for Kobe White, but he's
a hooper. He can, I agree. Giddey's always my least favorite click. He can get it done in different ways, but man, it's definitely a fine play. It's just so in between, which I guess GPPs is how it is, but I'm just never been a fan of his game.
Yeah, it's really tough to have any sort of conviction playing Giddey when you're only getting you're not 31 is like the max you're going to get from him. I don't think you can play somebody that's only playing 31 minutes at 7K personally. And these secondary guys probably won't get to, like Patrick Williams, last man in type of play, definitely not great. Lonzo, same thing. Like he's just not playing enough minutes. I think the Indy side is really good though. I love Tyrese Halliburton tonight. We've been picking on guards, the guard defense of Chicago all season long. He's shooting the ball really well right now. Got the assist numbers to fall back on as well if the shot's not falling. So I think that the floor ceiling combo for Halliburton at low ownership looks really, really strong. This is theoretically a really good matchup for Siakam against a weak rim defense, but man, the minutes have come down a lot. Usage has come way down. He's not scoring the ball as efficiently as he was earlier this season. I think if there were ever a spot to play Siakam, it'd probably be tonight. But at some ownership, I'd probably be like more under the field than over. I don't love
there's one upside. Game in the past like almost damn near all year that would have beat you. Not all, I mean. I see one game, and I think that was a game where I was chirping on. We were probably on the show and something like that. He's getting ownership, and he just has not done anything to break his slate. He was the one that stood out to me man, I don't know how I can click this name at ownership, and now he's going to absolutely nuke. But, man, give me the Tyrese, the Levines, the Kobe Whites, the Evan Mobleys, I think. I don't know. Yeah, you're the expert, but he's the one. And again, game log watch I don't love to do, but he just never seems to get there. And he's getting ownership.
Yeah, it's a tough look. I agree though. Talking all the shit about him, this is definitely the night where he goes off. I mean, the matchup is great too. So it's if there were it's I would say more neutral than great. It's really good in terms of the rim defense being terrible for Chicago. But Patrick Williams, I think, is probably the best defender on Chicago, and he will be on Siakam, I would imagine. So
the pace is a lot too, the leak outs and how fast this game can move, as you can see right here, Chicago high in pace. But yeah, you are right. I like Patrick Williams as a real life player. I respect his one-on-one defense for sure. Yeah,
he's solid. Just need him to stay healthy for a season, and I mean it's always these guys that play for teams like Chicago and Washington and Portland, they don't get enough attention just because these teams just are bad. So you think that everybody in the team is bad, but I think I agree with that. I think Patrick Williams is a pretty solid NBA player, and kind of on Portland too. I think Tumani Kamara, very solid NBA player, just doesn't get enough attention. But yeah, back to this going. I think that you could definitely play Miles Turner at 6.4K if he's good to go. Pretty good matchup against Vucevic, not a great defender. He's more so just like Brook Lopez is going to be launching a lot of threes. And Chicago takes a ton of three-pointers, so the upside for blocks may not be there tonight, but he should be able to score with ease against Vucevic. I really like the spot for Bennedict Mathurin, though, at low ownership, 5.8K. He's been getting talked up a bunch by Rick Carlisle in some of these post-game press conferences. And in an up-tempo game environment, I think that's when you want to play a guy like Bennedict Mathurin, where he's going to get out scoring in transition. He's driving the ball really efficiently right now. No rim defense on Chicago, so I think that there's a lot of outs for Bennedict Mathurin to have a really big game tonight. He's probably my favorite play outside of Halliburton on Indy. I think Nembhard is too cheap, also playing 30-plus minutes. And then TJ and Obi Toppin are guys that I would probably get a little bit of exposure to. I think Obi, this is another matchup that I could see Obi really, really thriving in, the up-tempo stuff, that he gets all his points in transition. He had a huge game against the Bulls the first time they played, only time they played this season, I believe. But he put up 36 DK points in that one, and that was in early December. Would be a lot better as well if Miles Turner is limited or out tonight. So, yeah, this game has a ton of ways to get there. I think definitely Indy side a lot more enticing than the Chicago side, but yeah, I don't think that Levine or Kobe White are terrible plays.
I got nothing to add. I added the Siakam stuff in there. I agree with you. The Levine, Kobe Whites, even Giddey's not the worst plays. We're checking ownership right here. 5%, 1%, 5%. Like these Bulls aren't really getting much ownership. You can see Siakam the highest in this game. Game only gets better if Turner and if Tyrese misses, then the McConnells, the Nemhards of the world, a lot changes, and of course projections. Everything does update. What's going on, pair by? No need to apologize at all. Nate D's in here as well. And I was laughing at this comment. Title likes to hold grudges. How big is the grudge at Najee? I will say I'm like half joking, half not. I mean, we've done this a long time. I don't hold a grudge on anybody. Like I'm clicking the names. I jammed Najee Marshall yesterday as well and didn't learn my lesson. It's just, man, when 100K is the first and 5K is the fourth, like you need first place. There's no two ways around it. So just that's why I said, and it's not true. I almost rather lose money than get that. Like when I lose money, I expect to lose money. There's zero tilt. There's zero anything. When you're right there and you think you're the favorite for first and you don't even get second or whatever, I mean, there's no grudges, nothing like that. But guys are like Del Coro. There's guys that will never leave my mind. There's no doubt about that. If you do DFS long enough, I think that's for everyone. But I swear I never played this guy. I banned this guy. I don't think that's the right approach. But no, it's a lot of fun too. You gotta have some fun with it. Let's keep it rolling, Rio. Great breakdown in that one. Let's go to the first of two really big spreads on the slate. The Washington Wizards taking on Philadelphia 76ers. 11-point favorites are the 76ers. 220.5 total. Decent amount of injury news in this one. So we got no Jordan Poole and Brogdon for Washington. And we got Carlton Carrington and Alexander Sarr and Kyle Kuzma, all questionable. Philly side, Embiid's out. Paul George is out. Drummond is questionable. Kyle Lowry is also out. Talk about, mentioned at the top, Philly, chalk. I should probably scroll down right here. Yeah, I mean, Philly's going to get a good amount of ownership when they're without Paul George and Embiid, maybe no Drummond. Maxey looks like a phenomenal play. Kelly Oubre, Caleb Martin, Yabusele, who even becomes a better play if there is no Drummond. Other side for the Wizards, though, they're without, again, Jordan Poole, no Brogdon, but they have 3 Q tags that are all play solid minutes, Kuzma, Carrington, Sarr. So how about you start that? I guess you could take it anywhere, but the Wizards side feels a lot more up in the air, where Philly, people are going to play Philly. There's no doubt about that. You can see in the ownership, a lot of ownership going to Philly. But yeah, if you could start Washington side and these Q tags, any lean on them and how much interest in this game with a lot of people playing 76ers?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully this one is in that first lock window, so we'll have the news. I don't really have a strong lean. Like I would imagine Carrington is probably good to go. I think Sarr probably good to go as well. I think he's been listed with the illness for a couple games now, but Kuzma is the one that I'd be worried about. Missed the second half, and he was actually doing really well. Had a lot of really good lineups with some of those Rockets pieces with Kuzma in there, and then he just bitch quit like Hideki Matsuyama in the second half. Is it Hideki that bitch quits that Dejan always says? I don't know if I got that right.
Yeah, he tees off and then he quits right after his back or something like that. I thought you were gonna name was it Campbell on the Niners? Who's the dude on the Niners that refused to go in and he got absolutely screwed?
Yeah, Devondre Campbell, was that who it was?
I think it was that.
The midday retirement, like Vontae Davis, RIP. But thankfully this game is the first on the slate because I think there's a lot of moving pieces in Washington. If multiple of those Q tags were to miss, I think as it stands right now, the only people I would have interest in on Washington, probably the young guys like Carrington. If he plays, I think he could have a really big role, and he's kind of been getting talked up a little bit by his coach, saying that he's going to have a bigger on-ball role. I like his game, man. I think he's going to be really good. I don't know why anybody in here would be watching Wizards games, but if you watch him play, like he's definitely got a lot of potential to be really good in the league. He's a big for a point guard. Solid peripheral stuff, adds some rebounding and assists to him. He's got a really nice mid-range game as well. Kind of reminds me of like a very lesser athletic version of like a young Russ. Like he's got that type of game to him. But I'd be most interested in him. He's right under 1 point per minute with all these guys off the court with Poole and Brogdon off the court. Should be playing a ton of minutes even if they blow out. But I would like him. I'd like Keyshawn George if he's starting at 3.4K. And then Jared Butler, he got there in a pretty big way last night. In the blowout, I think he played like 18 minutes in the second half, something like that. So he would be kind of benefiting from. I mean, he's kind of game script proof. I think he plays in blowout. I think he's going to get normal, probably like 2 to 3 rotations in a close game either way. So I probably would like those guys the most. I wouldn't really want to mess with Kuzma coming off of a Q tag with the calf strain. I think it was a contusion, which you should be able to play through. It's just like a bruise, but
he left at half, right?
Yeah, he played into. I think he played like normal rotation the first half, and then they ruled him out before the second started. Yeah, and then
half, and then, which was for no reason. Yeah, that's a lot of usage. If there's no Kuzma, that's a lot of usage to go around. And Butler, he ain't afraid to chuck at all. You mentioned like Carrington, he definitely is just more of a hooper, and like, I mean, he'll dish it. He's not just gonna chuck. Butler definitely will chuck.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of similar to like he can add. He's a good passer. He was on the Jazz for a little bit, so I got to watch him. But he's a good passer and decent rebounder for his size. So I don't think that he's
Baylor, right?
Out of play.
Baylor?
Yeah, I think so.
He was on a really good Baylor team, I want to say. I mean, good defender, if I'm not mistaken.
Baylor always has some really, really fun teams to watch. I don't really watch enough college basketball, but I always like watching Baylor. Yeah, that's pretty much it, though. I don't think I really want to mess with any of these guys up top. Like Koulibaly, a little bit too expensive. Champagny would be interesting just because when he's playing like a lot of minutes, he's shown to be a pretty solid per minute guy with like right around just over 1 fantasy point per minute. And he was playing like 36, 37 in like December and November when that team was really missing a lot of guys. I mean, Joval, like 22 minutes from Joval could probably be enough to pay off just because the matchup could be really soft. I didn't mention that off the top, but the Philly defense gets like significantly worse, especially with their rim defense when Embiid is out. I know he's not known to be like the best defender in the world, but you just have such a huge body down low, and you're replacing that with guys like Andre Drummond, who's always been a pretty bad rim protector, and then Gershon Yabusele, who's just an undersized big man. Like it's a really big drop off with the rim protection for the Sixers. So that's why I kind of think that it's decent for Joval and some of these guys that will be driving the basket, like Bub Carrington. But yeah, probably spending too much time on this game. Like if or at least too much on the Wizards.
I think this game's one of the best on the slate, in my opinion. I like it more than this game combined, and maybe I know you like this game a lot. I mean, people are playing 76ers size, and especially if like the Kuzma 3 important Q tags, I think this game's really interesting. So keep talking.
Yeah, no, I agree though. Like if multiple of those, like if Kuzma misses, it looks a lot better in Washington. And then if like Kuzma and Sarr miss, then it'd be really good. But I think that if these guys are in, it's probably just like a max 1 situation on the Wizards. Maybe I can get to 2, like maybe 2 of George, Butler, and Carrington can get there. But
Jovel, right?
Yeah, Jovel too. I wouldn't mind him. It's definitely gonna be in my player pool, but not somebody I'm not running to play them. It's just a really low. It's a low team total, which kind of has me worried because I just think this team could really struggle to score. But yeah, like if Kuzma's out, then that changes things a lot. The Sixers side, though, obviously a lot better with how bad the Wizards have been defensively this season. Pretty much getting beat all over the court. The rim defense has gotten better, but it's still pretty bad. 3-point defense is awful. Catch-shoot defense is bad. They're bottom 4 in transition defense, and the pace is definitely going to get picked up with Embiid out and Tyrese Maxey running the show. So yeah, I think Maxey is an excellent play tonight, 8.9K. Did a little bit of diving in like the on-off stuff for Maxey. The numbers don't look great. Like he's got a really good usage rate, 32% usage rate, 31% assist percentage, which is really good. But from a per minute standpoint, just okay. 1.15 fantasy points per minute. Probably going to play 40 minutes tonight if the game is like semi-close. But I don't know. It's kind of reminding me of like last night. Like there's some pivots in that range off of Maxey. I think a majority of the time Maxey's going to outscore guys like James Harden, guys like Tyrese Halliburton, and some other guards in that same range. But just from like a leverage standpoint, at those guys getting a fourth of the ownership or a fifth of the ownership, whatever it may be, like that looks like a pretty solid pivot. I think in single entry, you're probably locking in Maxey because I think that he's just going to project too good to overlook. But there are pivots off of him tonight, I will say. And the matchup it looks great on paper, like DVP wise. The Wizards, I believe, are dead last against point guards. But it's going to be Koulibaly on Maxey tonight, and he's a really good defender. So I think there's not like downside to Maxey tonight, but there's a chance that he hits like 48 and is not optimal, something like that. But Oubre at 5.1K, that looks really good. That's a really good price tag for him. Really good value. He returned from the hand injury or hand or wrist injury, whatever it was, and played 38 minutes against Phoenix. 11 rebounds, 26 points, put up 40 against Portland on New Year's Eve. So I think that he's a really, really good value tonight. Probably somebody that's going to go in like 80% of my 888 team, something like that. Because I think that there's very little avenues for him failing. If Drummond were to play, I think that he'd be in a good spot at 5.1K and probably no ownership. Really like Yabu and Caleb Martin as well. Don't really think there's any rules I want to set in terms of limiting these guys, but maybe consider, like, that's why I like Carrington. I think that he makes some sense in some correlated, like if you have 4 Philly guys, is there a scenario where they all pay off in a big way when they blow out? Probably, but probably better to correlate a Wizards guy on the other side and just hope that the game is high scoring and hope that the Wizards are able to keep it close. But I think that all these guys from Caleb Martin up to Maxey are really good plays tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Oubre by far, he's probably the best play on the slate for the price. Like, someone mentioned the revenge, not even necessarily that. He legit might, 25 shots. Like, he is going to completely chuck. Price tag is very fair without Embiid, PG on the court. Very solid usage. I mean, it's no shock, though. He's going to be very highly owned. I do think if Kuzma and Sarr and everyone played on the Wizards side, maybe you can get away with 4 76ers and no Wizards. Just hope like they all do enough. Like Kuzma kind of carries it, but he gets you 38 and other guys. But usually if I'm playing 4 guys on one team, I'm probably running it back with something. And again, I'm hoping one of them missed, but Jared Butler, I think, even if Kuzma is in, I think Butler, Bob Carrington, like you said, I don't mind Keyshawn George too. Like, all those guys are cheap enough where that's probably where I'd go, one of those value guys. And it sounds like Carrington's your favorite, right?
Yeah, for sure. I really like his game. Like I played him a lot earlier in the season, and he doesn't, like, he was on his way to a pretty big game last night just to blow out, cut him down a little bit. But yeah, I like his game a lot. I think that once he, I said it earlier in the season, like once he gets his bearings in the NBA, he's going to be a guy that's flirting with a triple-double on a nightly basis.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Let's keep it rolling. 3 games in. Awesome stuff so far. Still plenty of games to talk about. Toronto Raptors taking on the New York Knicks. We have this is the second game with the big spread, the biggest on the slate. Knicks 12.5-point favorites. Injuries on the Knicks side. Karl Anthony Towns questionable. Miles McBride questionable. Nothing on the Raptors side. I'll throw it to you right away, Rio. I am not seeing much ownership when looking at the stone in this one. So any low and own pieces that you can get to?
No, not really. I think this is a game we could I'm considering like straight up Xing out the Toronto side. I think if you were to play anybody, it's probably Quickly and Pirtle. Quickly matchup is pretty good in terms of the Knicks allowing the most pick and roll points this season. But the touch time and like usage, all that stuff is split pretty evenly down the middle between Barnes, Barrett, and Quickly, and their offense is just not looking good right now. Like, this might be one of the worst teams in the league outside of the Wizards. And Pirtle, just because he might play a good amount of minutes, and the matchup against Cat is not awful, but the Knicks' rim defense generally been pretty good. So not really liking anything on Toronto. I think the Knicks side is a lot more enticing. Cat looks really good at 10.1K. Should he play? He's played 2 games against the Raptors this season, 27.5 points per game, 12.5 rebounds, 6.5 assists, 2.5 stocks, and averaging 59.1 DK points. Just a knee contusion that held him out, so should be good to go. I'd imagine if he plays, he's going to be a full go, like probably playing 35 minutes tonight. And we know that Tibbs will play these guys deeper into blowout. So yeah, I think Cat is a pretty strong spend up tonight. Brunson, only if Cat were to be out. Still, even then, at 9.1K, he's not a smash play by any means. The Raptors on-ball defense has gotten a lot better as they've been de-emphasizing Davion Mitchell. So a little bit more upside from a scoring perspective, but that's a really, really hefty price tag to pay. I can't, in good conscience, play him over Tyrese Maxey or any of those other guards that I mentioned. I think Hart in an up-tempo game environment versus a terrible transition defense is kind of when you want to play him for that the triple-double upside. He's just okay, though. 8K is a pretty hefty price tag to pay for him. I like Bridges, though. I think that he's been shooting the ball really well, 6.5K. Should have no issues scoring here. Really solid team total for the Knicks, and he's going to play 40-plus minutes tonight, regardless of the game being close or not. So would rank it Cat, Bridges, Hart, and then Brunson and OG, but I don't really like. I really like Cat. Don't really love the secondary pieces on the Knicks.
Yeah, I'm with you. I do think quickly, and a lot of it, Sean Sullivan, the revenge game, a point guard that really wants to show out, especially at MSG, like he has the ball in his hand. He can dictate how much he really wants to shoot. He's already a high usage guy. That little stuff I do buy into, and he only has 6.8K and not coming with a lot of ownership. So that's someone I definitely am interested in. And then like the Knicks side, probably max one, but Towns looks strong. Bridges looks pretty strong. I mean, Hart and Anunoby, like guys that play that many minutes, I'm good with. So I'd rank them Cat, Bridges, Hart. Do you need any of them? Not at all. You don't need anyone in this game. It is the worst game on the slate. But if I had a quickly Cat, a quickly Bridges, something like that, I'd be good with that in this game. Like if the Raptors do keep it close, I do think a lot of it has to do with quickly in this one. So it's fine price tag. I'll buy in to the narrative. Maybe he shoots a couple extra shots. Definitely will be motivated. Let's keep it rolling. Next game on the slate, Detroit Pistons taking on the Brooklyn Nets. We have 213 total. Another big spread, though. Pistons 9-point favorites. Never thought I'd really see the day. Pistons 9-point favorites. But, man, talk about being early on people. We were definitely early on Cade. What was he, 7-9 to start the year?
Yeah.
Or something crazy? Maybe not quite that bad. But, man, I feel like anytime we're on the show, always talking about Cade. It's no secret anymore. But the definition of a hooper, and they're surrounding their roster. I like what the Pistons are doing a little bit. As far as injuries in this one, no Azure Thompson for Detroit. No Q tags on that side, though. Brooklyn, Day'Ron Sharpe is questionable. Ben Simmons doubtful. No D-Russ. No Cam Thomas. No Cam Johnson. If Day'Ron Sharpe plays, can he replicate what he did a night ago where, 22 minutes, like 44 DK points? A lot of it did come late, too. Again, I had him, the guy that is not on the shit list. He absolutely missed rebound, tip shot. He was absolutely all over the stat line like a Drummond. I don't know how much I really love him in this spot, though. But, again, Pistons, pretty big favorites. If Sharpe was to miss, you have a lean Clowney, would then be very strong, I think. Does have power forward eligibility. Tyrese Martin got some ownership last game. It won't be nearly as high. Can we run him back? Cade definitely looks really strong. But outside of Cade, what do you see?
Yeah, I mean, Brooklyn is just a mess right now. I don't see – like this is an embarrassing team total. I could see them scoring less than 100 here because Detroit's playing really good right now. I think they've won 7 out of their last 8, won 4 straight in a row. Their defense has been really good. Their rim protection's been really good this season. I believe they're top 3 or top 4 with the rim defense. So they're definitely getting beat more on ball with their pick and roll defense being worse. But I mean, who's going to handle the ball for Brooklyn tonight? It was Keon Johnson last game. He's probably the closest thing they have to a real point guard. But even then, like he's almost 6K, so I don't know how much upside there really is for him. He got there last time in a decently big way with 31. I mean, not a big way, but he had 31 fantasy points with 4 steals. The assist numbers look pretty solid. So he'd probably be the guy from a matchup perspective on Brooklyn that has the best outlook. But you really need him to do something at 5.8K. There's probably a lot better plays for cheaper and in that same range that I'd rather play over Keon. I don't like the matchup for Claxton either. I could see his minutes really getting dialed back should this game blow out, which I'm expecting it to. I guess Zaire is okay. Like he's like probably the outside of Claxton, their most talented player on the roster, I would say. Not playing enough minutes though, so probably don't like him. I'm not going to mess around too much with the guys above 5K. Probably just get to like Tyrese Martin, Jalen Wilson. I think Noah Clowney is pretty good because I guess if Day'Ron Sharpe were to miss, like he's the backup center, they might bring him off the bench in that case, but I doubt it. He's probably going to be the starting power forward and then shift him up when Claxton were to come off the court and then probably play some more Tosan Evbu. You want to give that one a try? I can't say that. I remember he was like on the Grizzlies last year for a while, but I definitely can't pronounce that. You're the pronunciation guy. You're
for
better
football and stuff like Zacchaeus in the world. Not these guys that never see the court. I ain't even gonna give it a go.
Tosan, we'll just call him Tosan.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, he's like a front court guy, so he'd probably shift up to the 4 and Clowney to the 5 if Sharpe were to miss at the backup center spot. That's how I would imagine it go for Brooklyn. But yeah, it's a pretty gross game, especially on the Brooklyn side. I think Detroit a little bit more interesting. It's probably just Cade though. Like I don't think you need to get up to 6K Tobias Harris. He was a lot better of a play at 5K. During the matchup should be pretty good versus weak rim defense, but probably not playing enough minutes, and there's better center options. So I think it's just Cade on the Detroit side. He's playing really well right now. He should be I don't know if there's any sort of debate about him being an all-star this season, but he definitely should be playing really good. The on-ball defense for the Nets has been their only strength defensively, but a lot of that was due to having guys like Schroeder and Dorian Finney-Smith on the team earlier this season. Now they're just really, really thin there. So I think that he could put up a really big game here. 9.8K, solid price tag for him. So yeah, just Cade and then some of those values on Brooklyn is how I'm looking at it.
Tosan Evboman. I looked it up. Not only did I look it up, I also listened to a video of it. Evboman is I think how it goes. Regardless, I don't think we're playing that guy.
So this is a good point. So it was worse with Ivy, but it's better when Asar Thompson's in the lineup. A lot worse now that Asar is not in the lineup because he's obviously out with the illness. But yeah, their pick and roll defense is going to be really good with Asar out there because the Thompson twins are just insanely athletic.
I'll say let's go to the other Thompson twin that you've absolutely loved for a while. Ahmed is hooping. It's good to see.
Yeah, he's a beast. He's a first team all defense this year. He should be at least.
He definitely didn't want no Tyler Hero uppercut though. I promise you that.
Cartoon ass uppercut.
Tossed his ass and Hero was running. He swore he wanted. He had to get held back. He was running to get held back. That was really funny for sure.
Hero's lucky that they were winning because that's the only thing that he could fall back on because he got ragdolled. He was.
Yeah, he threw his ass to the. That shit was funny for sure. All right, let's keep it going. 420 people watching. What a great number. All we ask, little 30-second timeout. Like button, subscribe button. Helps us out a ton. We really do appreciate it. And again, if you do want to join us weekly, monthly, 6-month packages, our best deal right now with PGA returning starts tomorrow, or it started last week, but the cut event. DGen has a live stream tonight. Hoop and Tambo yesterday. No better PGA team, not even close in the industry. Excuse me. MMA back this week as well. Will be pretty much every single week throughout the year. So NFL playoffs will be big boy slates. Have all the content for that. NASCAR coming back. Next thing you know, MLB back as well. $100 off. Does include Shiptimizer if you do want that as well. And again, if you want to try out weekly, does not include the Discord, has all the content. Monthly, 6-month as well. No better place to be. Let's keep it rolling, Rio. Great work. Couple games left on the slate. Los Angeles Clippers. I didn't skip. Oh, yeah, I did. I almost did skip. Portland Trailblazers, New Orleans Pelicans. There is no Zion. No Trey Murphy. DeJounte's questionable, coming off a massive game yesterday. Portland side, Denny Abdia. Donovan Klingland is questionable. Jeremy Grant remains out. Looking at this 1.5 point favorites are the Pelicans. 224.5 total. I guess with Zion, again, he just returned. Now he's out again. DeJounte Murray. Do you have a lean on that? Because if there's no DeJounte, this game could definitely be interesting. One of the closest spreads on the slate. Looking at ownership, I mentioned earlier, Brandon Boston is looking. We got him at 16%. Large field. I wouldn't even be surprised if that's higher. The higher stakes you go, the more it'll be. Shooting guard, small forward eligibility, 3.4K. Do expect him to get a good amount of ownership. These Portland guys, though, absolutely crushed a couple nights ago. Shaedon Sharpe. I mean, I said in the Discord, Hooper. Always like him. He is coming with some ownership. Simons. You mentioned Kamara earlier. Ayton. This game definitely looked very appealing. Break it down. Start Pelican side because it's going to have less ownership and that DeJounte Q tag pretty big.
Yeah, for sure. I think that DeJounte's probably good to go. He's been dealing with the elbow injury and shooting the ball a lot better. I don't want to take full ownership for this, but I know Mike Gallagher, one of the best in the business at just like NBA stuff, talked about how bad DeJounte's been with his driving, like his layup efficiency has been really bad. And then he started shooting a lot better when he got listed with the elbow injury, which is pretty funny how that works out. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's a correlation. I think that he just kind of was rusty, shaking it off earlier in the season, and now he's starting to get back to his style of play. But yeah, I would imagine he's good to go. Elbow injury, not really something you don't have to manage that too much. I don't know how bad it is. Could just be like a tennis elbow type thing, something like that. But yeah, he's playing a lot better. I would imagine he's good to go tonight. The Denny stuff is kind of interesting though, because that's a pretty big tag. Like that would open up a starting spot for probably Chris Murray, and would probably be playing a ton of minutes because Denny, we've seen him routinely get into like the upper 30s, like 36, 38, even played 40, 43 against Milwaukee, I believe. So that leaves behind a really big role. I would assume that Murray would start and then Scoot probably mixing in. They could play more small ball alongside of guys like Aiden and all those guards. So I think that those would be the two guys that would benefit the most. Maybe some Robert Williams, but I don't get why the Blazers are trying to make him a power forward. Like he just has no shot offensively. You just can't have him out there with another prototypical center. So would imagine it's Murray getting most of those minutes, but yeah, this should be a really, really strong game environment. Klingon questionable too. I think that's decently big for the outlook on DeAndre Ayton. I think they're gonna flip-flop these guys from a rest perspective, sit Klingon tonight and then probably sit Aiden tomorrow because it is a back-to-back, what I'm expecting there. But yeah, it should be a really, really good game. Both these teams are really bad at protecting the basket. I think since early December, the Blazers have been like one of the worst defense in the league. Rim defense is gradually getting worse and worse with Aiden kind of being who he is, really bad rim protector. And the Pelicans have been a team that we've been looking to attack all season long, giving up a ton of volume. Both these teams are, and they're second and third worst in transition defense in the league this season. So should be some offensive fireworks here. I think if both these teams can get some scoring going. I like the guards a lot for the Blazers. I don't know who they're gonna put. Jesus Christ. I don't know if people can hear that, but
I was going to compliment you on how good your attention is with that in the background. It wasn't. I mean, we could hear it. It wasn't too noticeable, or it wasn't bad or distracting.
You know how loud it is. I know how loud it is. So
that's why for you, I was really impressed. Is Barry there or something? They taking care of the dog. Come on, Barry, get him out of there.
Yeah, I was hoping people couldn't hear that, but I was just trying to play.
No, that was really impressive. You're good. Keep it.
But yeah, these guards I think look really solid for the Blazers. I don't know who is going to be guarding Herb Jones. Or who's going to be defended by Herb Jones. I would imagine it's Anthony Simons, and if it is, then give me all the Shaedon Sharpe because that would leave DeJounte Murray probably on Shaedon Sharpe. DeJounte not been the same defender that he was when he was in San Antonio, but still pretty solid. But yeah, Shaedon Sharpe looked really good last time out, right around a triple-double. The scoring wasn't as good as you would have expected against a team like Detroit. But yeah, I think that he's a very reasonable price tag at 5.7K. I like both these guards a lot. Would definitely be max 2, Scoot, Simons, and Sharpe. And then I think Ayton is a really good play. We've seen centers beat up on Missy all season long, the rim defense being terrible. So I think that we could see those minutes get extended here a bit for Ayton at 6.2K. Kind of alluded at the top of the show with like comparing him to Vucevic, like give me Ayton all day. And then Toumani Camara, I think, is definitely in play at 4.6K. This is a pretty decently big turnover-prone team in New Orleans, so could see those steals spike in a big way. And then if Avdia were to miss, that's even more minutes to go around at the small forward, power forward position, and Camara could take that over a little bit. So, yeah, I think that is a really good spot for a lot of these Blazers. The Pelican side looks really good as well. I think if DeJounte plays, he's a pretty sneaky option, 8.8K as a pivot off of Tyrese Maxey. He's a lot less likely to hit in a big way than guys like Halliburton and James Harden, just because the shot hasn't really been great. But it is encouraging to see him get there with a triple-double 2 games ago. And he scored the ball really well last game. Not shooting great from deep, but 12 for 20. The efficiency, like I said, off drives is a lot better. And Portland is third in turnover percentage. And we've seen him spike for really big steals games twice in the past, like 5-6 games. Had 6 against the Clippers, which I mentioned on that day. How the Clippers are dead last, or I think second last in turnover percentage this season. Minnesota, that just kind of spiked out of nowhere, but Washington had 3 against them, another turnover-prone team. So this could be a spot where if DeJounte gets like a double-double and he gets like 4 or 5 steals, could pay off in a really big way. CJ shot the ball terribly last game. He's just not really my type of play. Like I played him against Washington when he put up 50. But yeah, just not my type of play at 8K. He just doesn't do enough with the peripherals. He's very scoring dependent. It is a good matchup, so maybe he puts up 50 again, but probably not something I'm heavily investing into.
He's something I really click to. So scoring dependent. That one game though, I mean, he was projecting so well. He had the nut spot, the injuries. It really was. But yeah, I'm with you on CJ.
Yeah, I mean, he had 5 peripherals in that game. Like, that's kind of what you're getting on a nightly basis. So if he's not putting up 35, I mean, minimum he needs like 30 to even get close to paying off the price tag. And now it's 8K. I think that night he might have been like 7.2, 7.4, something like that. So yeah, a lot tougher to get to CJ there. Missy, good matchup. Like I mentioned, Aiden, terrible rim defense. I think that he's kind of interesting. It's a lot better with Zion out. They've kind of staggered those guys a little bit and cut back on Missy when Zion is in, just because Zion can't stretch the floor as much. So you need more shooters around Missy and more shooters around Zion. So they kind of eat into each other in a pretty big way. So I think it's kind of a sneaky good spot for Missy. And Herb Jones, same thing for DeJounte. Those steals could spike in a pretty big way. And then Brandon Boston, assuming he's starting, really good value. And then you could use Jordan Hawkins as a pivot off of Brandon Boston. I think that makes a lot of sense because I don't know if I don't really know if Hawkins or if Boston really should be projecting 8 to 10 points more than Hawkins when Hawkins is kind of a guy that they are more so invested into in terms of draft capital. They got Brandon Boston off the I don't even know how they got him. I know he was with the Clippers for a bit, so it could have just been like a free agent pickup or something like that, like a 2-way contract. But definitely more invested into a guy like Hawkins. So I think it kind of makes sense to lean into him a little bit more. But if Brandon Boston is starting, I don't see how you can get away from that.
Yeah, he's going to be so popular. If DeJounte somehow missed, he even gets a boost. One of the more popular values on the site for sure. Someone said like it's so hard to find the right value. There's plenty of mid-tier. If you want to go the mid-tier route too, there's obviously spends. Going to get to Giannis, Wemby, talked about Cat, SGA, but Stars and Scrubs will kind of be the route people go to. I do think people will play one above 10K, and then from there they'll mix in some value and go mid-tier, like the Maxis and stuff for the world. But if you don't like any of the value, you most definitely can go mid-tier on this slate. We're going to get to this next game right here with the Nuggets. Very curious how you're going to approach it. Yesterday, it seemed really obvious to me that Jokic wasn't going to play. So right from the get-go, I was bumping the Watsons of the world, the Westbrooks, MPJ. It worked to an extent. The most chalky, Saric, did not get there at all, but we'll jump right into it. Nuggets, Clippers. We have the Clippers as 1.5 point favorites on the road, 225 total. Jokic questionable for Denver, no Kawhi for the Clippers. And Jokic questionable with the illness. It sounded like a legit illness yesterday, which is why the Nuggets are underdogs at home. You said you did not expect that. I would not expect that if he was healthy. So are you going to be building that way? And if so, one question I want to throw to, like Saric started yesterday, but a traditional big, a Zubac, would you be shocked if they went a DeAndre Jordan? And then Peyton Watson himself played a lot better than Saric yesterday. But I still think like it makes sense. They don't like playing DeAndre Jordan, but this is a traditional big in Zubac where it definitely makes sense to do so. So if that's the case, like how are you projecting these guys? How are you building? This game's at 9 Eastern. I doubt we have the Jokic news. I know for sure I'm not playing Jokic. I'm going to zero him out and get none. If he plays, I won't want much of this game, and you can pivot to a pretty good Bucks-Spurs game after. But, I mean, yeah, like Peyton Watson played great yesterday. Russell Westbrook, obviously, huge role without Jokic. But the main thing I'm wondering, center against Zubac, how do you think they start and then break it down from there?
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I do think that it would be DeAndre Jordan. At least in my mind, it makes a lot of sense. Just Zubac is a monster human being, and Saric would just get bodied down low. We saw some stats from last night. In terms of like one game sample sizes, the Nuggets gave up the most rim points last game with no Jokic, and then starting Saric down low. I mean, was really, really bad. Which is, what's even worse is doing that against Boston, who is a team that lives and dies by the three. Like giving up the most rim points against a team like Boston is not a good look. So I do think that. I think that DeAndre Jordan makes a lot more sense for the matchup. And if he's starting, like he was really good in starts last season, filling in for Jokic. There was like a handful, like 6 to 8 games, something like that, where Jordan was starting for Jokic and was really good. So I think that if he starts, he's probably playing like 25, 28 minutes on probably 28 is like the high end, but I think 25 is probably like the median outcome for him. And he'd be really good value, like probably the best on the slate if that's the case. Yeah, I agree with you, though.
I hate to ask you, of your 10 teams, like, do you think you're going to plug in a DeAndre Jordan to start? He is just center eligible. Obviously, I'd prefer to play him at util and go double center builds if I do it. You have Peyton Watson, who for sure is going to get in 400 more. I wouldn't hate that. Looking down a little bit, Castle's 3,400. He might already be in your teens, though. Again, I'm just looking at pivots. Champagny, 3,600. I don't know. So just thoughts on that quick about if you are playing Jordan, do you think you will have any? Would you make sure he's in util? Would you make sure you have 400? Would you make sure you have a couple spots left? Just any thoughts on that?
I think you have to build with probably like one of Wemby or Giannis if you play DeAndre Jordan is what I would think, because that gives you the most flexibility in terms of like salary, because I think it would be like 1,400. So you have around 7K per player to swap off, so you can get to probably like Jamal Murray and Vassell or Russ or something like that. Like you'd have so you'd have to have DeAndre at util. Yes, that would be tough, because I'm thinking through, like, you couldn't have DeAndre at center. I guess you could go down to Zubac.
You could have Wemby, Giannis, like you'd have the two centers. Yeah, like you'd have center util, so you could mess with your util spot there. So
yeah,
you could make that work. I mean, I wouldn't want him just as the only center there. Because if you're going Giannis, Wemby, you probably can have that. I mean, obviously Wemby's just center eligible, Giannis power forward, but yeah, be thoughtful of it. No doubt about that. Expect not to have the news because there's only 2 games. The game prior, 8 p.m. Eastern, is New Orleans and Portland. This game's at 9 Eastern, so expect not to have it. If we do, great, but there's only 2 games to work with, but keep going.
Yeah, definitely I'm going to be scrubbing the internet trying to find any sort of news on Jokic, but from what I saw, like, he was very, very sick. Mike Malone said he was just not feeling good. He left the arena after trying to warm up, so I would say definitely more on the doubtful side, but probably like a true 50-50. But hopefully we get some more reporting on that as we get throughout the day. But you would imagine that with the Clippers being favored here, with no Kawhi too, mind you, that it's probably very likely that Jokic were to be out. So I would probably end up building in that case. But yeah, like we mentioned, definitely going to want to have some swaps. But yeah, the Clippers side definitely got a lot better with no Kawhi. 8.6K for Harden is probably what you'd be paying with a healthy Kawhi, and now we're getting you without him. We're getting Harden without him versus a team with no Aaron Gordon, who have been giving up some really big games to opposing players pretty much on a nightly basis. Like Christian Braun, not that good of a defender in my eyes. Payne Watson is very good, so maybe he steps in more, but I don't know if it would be him on Harden or him on Powell. Either way, Harden's going to have a really big role, and this is a really good price tag. Something, we're paying like normally 9.4K, 9.5K for James Harden, get him 8.6K at reasonable ownership, I think is a very good play. I mentioned Zubac should be in a really good spot here if Jokic were to miss, with how bad the rim protection was for the Nuggets last night. So yeah, I like him a lot and would make sense in some late swap stuff. And then Norm Powell, really good spot for catch and shoot guys. He probably still doesn't do enough for me to be a smash play at 6.7K with no Kawhi, just because he's very reliant on his scoring. But I have to see, like, if shooting guard small forward is weak and we need like a mid-tier guy like Norm Powell to fill in the last spot, I would be totally fine with that. Probably not messing with these secondary plays though, like KBJ, Derek Jones Jr., Chris Dunn. I think that there's better value. And then the Nugget side, like, I do expect Jordan to start if Jokic is out, would be really solid value. And then all of Jamal Murray, Russell Westbrook, MPJ, Peyton Watson would definitely look really good as a value. Even now, I mean, you could probably still play him, but all these guys would look a lot better, and you're definitely going to want to have like 1 to 2 guys on your roster, I would say. You might get paid off in a decently big way too with how chalky the Philly stuff is.
Yeah.
Don't know how much better these guys would be from a value standpoint, because it's not like a straight line pivot from like all those Philly guys are in the 5K range, so it'd be like Braun and Watson, but I don't know how much better they would really be than the Philly guys.
I think at ownership, like, you'd get a huge ownership discount. So in that way, it'd be nice. And again, Giannis is really strong. Wemby looks good late. I will say Zubac looks really strong, I think. Yeah. Part of the 2 centers, like, you can load up kind of you definitely want pieces like Philly and some of the early stuff, but you only have like 4 spots and you are jamming these last 2 games, expecting Jokic to be out. I think there's plenty of different ways you can go. But like looking at Zubac compared to Hartenstein, I know 7-1 for Hartenstein, Zubac 7-7, but look, give me the 6. I want to find that 600 and get to Zubac for sure. Yeah, you can definitely fade Max. He's going to be popular, but you can fade anyone. There's no doubt about that. Bones Highland Revenge. I'll sit that one out. I take it you will as well, Rio. If you're telling me he started and playing 30 minutes, definitely, but I don't see that. Last thing, Max 2 Clippers before we get to the next game. I probably just naturally will. I don't see myself.
I think so. I think you. I'm pretty much always Max 2 of like the spends for Clippers. So yeah, you probably will naturally just be Max 2 of those guys anyways.
Yep, I think so too. Last game of the slate, awesome stuff. 8-game slate. Good job breaking it down, Rio. 9:30 Eastern. You cannot ignore this one. Again, this game in Denver, 1 hour after all the other ones. Injury news in this one. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about it. Just Jeremy Sochan is out. No Q tags to worry about. So full giddy up with Giannis and Wemby should be a lot of fun. 227 total. Bucks 5-point favorites. I did see the stat. Last time they went toe-to-toe, Giannis actually put his ball bag on Wemby. Could see that happening again. And looking at prices, 11-4 for Giannis, 11-5 for Wemby. Looking at ownership in this game, though, Wemby getting a little, Castle definitely getting some for value. Giannis, I do think this number comes up, though. I do think Giannis, the preferred spend for a lot of people, he should be 12-4 in my opinion, but there still is a lot of spends like the Cats of the world, the SGAs of the world, Wemby on the other side of the game if you want to go mid-tier stuff. So by no means is Giannis a lock, but he's by far my favorite spend on the slate. Should be a great game. I think you get multiple pieces. Break it down however you would like.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this game would definitely provide you with a lot of late swap ability too if you are building with Jokic being in or out in mind. So I think it makes a lot of sense. And it's a pretty solid game environment. I've seen the Spurs being able to put up a lot of points offensively. Both these teams are a little bit more defensive minded as of late, though. Spurs playing really good defense this season. And the Bucks, I mean, they have their issues, but their on-ball defense has been a lot better with Andre Jackson Jr. in there. Their rim defense is spot on, top 6 in the league. But their three-point defense can be a little shoddy at times. So it's a pretty decent spot for some of the guards like Vassell. And I think Wemby is in a pretty decent spot. Transition defense has not been that great for Milwaukee either, but San Antonio doesn't really get out and run that much. For the Spurs, they're pretty much like they don't have too many discrepancies in their defense or too big of holes. Adding a guy like Castle into the lineup is, I would say, a pretty decent pivot off of Sochan. Sochan is the guy that they'll put on the best defender, and Castle can kind of fill that role. So I would imagine Castle is on Damian Lillard tonight, but he's still young. He could still commit some issues at times. So if anything, it's a good spot for the guards, but Giannis is just, I think he's underpriced. I think Wemby probably underpriced too. I agree with you there. I think it could be a little bit tougher for Wemby to hit a ceiling outcome here because we're going to need really efficient three-point shooting from him in this game because it's going to be really tough for him to score around the basket with how good the Bucks are with their rim defense. We've seen a willingness for Wemby at times to really uptick his three-point volume. So I think that if we run into a hot shooting night, then 60 to 70 is definitely in the cards for him, and he's starting to rebound the ball a lot better as of late too. Double-digit boards in 3 straight games, which feels like it should be the norm for somebody that's 7'5". But there are some times where he just kind of like he'll take plays off on not like take plays off on defense, but he won't be chasing down boards all the time. And if the ownership holds, I think that he's a pretty strong pivot off of Giannis for $100 more. Because they have similar upside. The downside for Wemby is that the Bucks don't really get their shots blocked as much, so probably don't see a huge spike in shot blocking. But so we're kind of relying on 3-point efficiency and rebounding for him tonight. Maybe the assists spike up a little bit too. But I have nothing negative to say. He's an elite per minute producer, playing mid-30s on a nightly basis with upside for. We've seen like 38, 39 from him in close games, nationally televised as well. So longer timeouts can extend him a little bit. They don't really trust these backup centers. They're rotating in Keldon Johnson or Zach Collins and Charles Bassey. So, yeah, like 37, 38 is definitely in play for tonight for Wemby. And if that's the case, definitely slightly underprojected and underpriced. The guards are the next guys I want to touch on. It's really like Vassell, Paul, and Castle, I think, are the guys that you're looking to if you're not playing Wemby. Paul looks pretty solid at no ownership. Vassell is not getting a ton of ownership either, though. And we've seen the ball handling role increase for Vassell as they try to get him more involved as a ball handler with the pick and roll stuff with Wemby. So there's a little bit more upside to him from a scoring perspective and assist perspective. seems like more of a cash play than somebody you want to go to in tournaments. I think that the upside for Chris Paul is slightly better, even at his age. Like, he just does a little bit more. The rebounding numbers are surprisingly really good for Chris Paul this season, and the assist numbers. Like, he's a really good bet for double-double most nights. And if the scoring can uptick in a big way, probably going to have a softer matchup with Damian Lillard on him. But it could be there's a couple ways the Bucks could play it with Taurean Prince in the starting lineup. It could be Prince on Vassell and then Andre Jackson on Chris Paul. And if that's the case, then I would not like Chris Paul as much. And I would really like Stephon Castle if Damian Lillard is guarding him. But yeah, I think the guards are very interesting. If Castle is starting, he's been very good as a starter in his young career, averaging 30.2 minutes per game in starts with just under 27 DK points per game. 3.4K, really good price tag for him. I don't think the ownership is getting too out of hand either. So somebody I'm pretty comfortable going overweight on. If there were a pivot off of Castle on the same team, it'd probably be Julian Champagny. They've been using him more as an on-ball guy, so that'd be the straight line pivot. $200 more, slightly different positional stuff, but you're probably playing Castle in one of the guard or util spot anyway, so should be pretty easy to pivot to him if you have the salary. Probably be max one of Champagny and Castle, probably max one Keldon, Barnes, and Champagny. Probably max two Vassell, Paul, and Stephon Castle, and then Wemby is fine by himself. The Bucks side, I think it's really just the guys up top. Giannis and Dame are the only two guys I'd really want. Dame, very less likely to hit in a big way, 9.2K with a fully healthy roster, so probably not somebody I'm getting much of, if any. But Giannis should be he's underpriced 11.4K. I have nothing to say about the matchup. It should be a little bit tougher going up against Wemby. He has the size and length to really make some shots tougher for Giannis at the rim, but Giannis is coming off of a triple-double in 29 minutes, underpriced at 11.4K, so I think that he is a totally fine option. Maybe some Brook Lopez, 5.3K, could see his minutes. Oh, Dame downgrade to questionable. That's interesting.
Someone just asked about Gary Trent, and I said, I mean, wow.
It'd probably be Ryan Rollins would be the guy that you'd want if Dame were to be out. He's only 3.5K, pretty decent pivot off of Castle as well. That's
what does
interesting.
that do to like the Middletons, the Trends, I hate playing Andre Jackson. You can see this awful point per minute. Obviously, Giannis, that even makes even more extraordinary of a play.
Yeah.
Rollins, yeah. I think you're right. I think it is Rollins. If they need scoring, I mean, they definitely like AJ Green a bit. Still on this, I guess, like, how would you compare those guys? Because someone asked about Boston versus Castle anyway. Like, how would you throw the Rollins, the AJ Green? I mean, I think Rollins would maybe even be the best, assuming he's the starting point guard. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? That's really interesting.
And we're already getting lineups out there for the Sixers too. Yabu starting at the 5. Oh, Eric Gordon starting for Philly too. That's interesting.
Eric Gordon starting?
Yeah.
Is Drummond? Did they announce something with Drummond?
They didn't say anything, but they had Yabu starting at the 5. We'll see. That might mean that Drummond is out, but yeah, we'll get the news in terms of how I'd rank those value guys on Milwaukee versus Boston and Castle. Probably still pretty far behind Boston and Castle, I would say. Really just using them as a low on pivot in that same range because it's a pretty easy pivot to get to. I would probably be like Prince, Gary Trent Jr., and Ryan Rollins would be the guy. Oh, closer to doubtful for Drummond. Cool. Nice to get that news nice and early. Yeah, I would say that those guys I would just be using as a pivot in the same game. Halliburton, damn, we get flooded with news right now 2 hours before lock.
I mean, that's the best thing. You'll be in Discord. I read like any hardcores.
Miles Turner out.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to finish up whatever you had to say about that game, and if you want to circle back to anything, but that's definitely a good reason to be a premium member. Your core report obviously will be out, but the big thing, being in Discord, like yesterday, your Jokic stuff really helped. Your quote from whatever beat reporter, that was the first thing I saw of it, and that absolutely changed my mindset on things. You're always dropping nuggets. Shout out plenty of people in Discord. Parabuys of the world, always dropping stuff. Sean Sullivan, definitely added bonus to get there with all this news coming. Projections, ownership, always updated. But yeah, if you have anything more to add to that game and you want to touch on the Turner, Drummond, anything there. But again, no better time to be a member. Weekly, monthly, 6-month packages. Our best deal is annual though. You want to try weekly? Again, no Discord in that. Monthly, $85. For the month, including Shiptimizer, it is less without Shiptimizer. Best deal though, PGA locking tomorrow. All the content is up, as you can see right here. DGen stream later, but yeah, I guess I was interrupting a bit, but take the floor away, and then I'll get us on out of here.
Yeah, so finishing up with the Milwaukee game, the spread did move half a point with the I'm not even gonna touch on the news anymore. You guys are all seeing it, but yeah, the spread moved half a point with the Lillard news, so definitely notable. Yeah, I would say all those guys just a pivot off of.
Was it five? Wait, it moved 1.5 points. If 5 was correct, we had it on the stone. It's now 3.5. Or what?
Oh,
you seeing?
okay. Yeah. I'm looking on something else, so I only see half a point. But yeah, if it's 3.5, then that's pretty big.
DK. Yeah,
that's pretty big line movement. So I would definitely be building with Lillard out as kind of how I would look at it.
I definitely would too. No movement in the Pacers side. I do think Obi gets a Thomas Bryant starting, who you were shitting on. Oh my god.
That's what I was gonna say.
Obi's interesting.
I think Obi's really good. Like I think they could put Siakam on Vucevic. I think they could have Toppin just playing off ball more with Patrick Williams. I think that the matchup just makes so much more sense for Toppin in terms of the pace of the game. Have to see what the ownership looks like, because you're probably going to be getting Thomas Bryant that Chalky's playing the slate maybe.
Yeah, and that's locking in. He's 3.2K. It's locking in just center only, and there's definitely good centers on the slate. Wemby's just center. At least you get power forward for Giannis. You do get power forward for Giannis.
DeAndre Jordan too.
DeAndre Jordan, Zubac. Again, that makes the Zubacs of the world, Hartensteins of the world, like way, way lower owned. But yeah, I mean, you're locking in early. But a starting center at 3.2K for sure is appealing. But yeah, assuming we think DeAndre Jordan starts, if you want Wemby's of the world, that lowers Wemby ownership. There's no doubt about that. Lowers all the other center stuff. So it makes the slate really interesting. Yeah, Bryant's playable, really no doubt. Bryant is definitely playable in GPP. Probably cash. I wouldn't be surprised if he was in the cash report. It's tough. Again, all the content, core reports. Rio's got a lot of teams in that 888. It's always dialed in. BJ's in the 888 as well. Very, very sharp mind. BJ will have the showdown slate playing tonight. And again, projections, ownership always updated. Discord a big piece. But this slate, and that's probably not going to be the last of the news. I mean, it's NBA DFS. A lot always changes.
Yeah, for sure. I was looking up some stuff for Obi without Miles Turner this season. He's been really good, averaging 35.6 points per game, played 30 minutes in both of those games. Obviously, that was with no what's his name? Thomas Bryant, but they did have in one of those games they had like Enrique Freeman starting at center, so a lot different. But I mean, it was like Isaiah Jackson that first game. I think that Miles Bryant probably a little bit worse than Isaiah Jackson, in my opinion. He's definitely better than Enrique Freeman.
Total went up 0.5 point. I don't know if that means anything, but 243, it's highest on the slate like it was. I don't know if it was 242.5. Regardless, it was already a game you liked.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that means, I don't know, to me that kind of, I feel like that means Toppin's going to play more because he's definitely a guy that pushes the pace.
Speeds it up.
Yeah. So, I'm really liking Toppin tonight. I think he's going to be a very strong play. Just, I don't know what I'm going to do about rules against those two because they're so cheap together, and Thomas Bryant really could pay off in like a big way in 18 minutes if that's all he gets, and Obi gets like 28 or something like that. Like they have a combined price tag of 6.9K, so you're looking at like a 6.9K center essentially across two positions that could probably get you 60 points. Like that'd be very good. So probably won't make any rules against the two.
Two more things. Bucks now down to 3-point favorites, 3.5. Last I said it 2 minutes ago. Now 3 makes me even think more so. Dame, especially something this late. Like, why would he be ruled down to Q10? I mean, I love Giannis. There's no doubt about that. I think it only gets stronger. The Rollins of the world, stuff like that. I hope he gets some coach speak. Otherwise, I mean, backloading those last 2 games make a lot of sense. But the last things, our man Lachlan had a question. I think even with all this news, definitely not. I probably would have said no before. Super sneaky is definitely indeed, though. But any thoughts on Ricky Council?
Yeah, probably don't need to go there. I think if there was a guy that's sneaky, but you're probably still not playing, just somebody to keep an eye on is Justin Edwards. He's basically the only other forward/center that they have on the roster outside of like Caleb Martin and Yabusele, I guess. And he's been kind of getting talked up a little bit by Nick Nurse. But there's definitely not enough enough juice there. Like I don't really think that you're going out of your way to play any of these like cheap value pieces on Philly. Kind of how I'm looking at it. So yeah, I probably won't play Council.
Yeah, I agree. Man, what a slate. Hour 25 talking ball. Obviously, great stuff as always, Rio. That's last injury news, though. I'm happy it hit on the show. It makes me definitely like the up to lock stuff back in the day, man. That is so tough getting all your lineups, so stressful, the random stuff. That's NBA DFS, though. Projections, ownership, updated, core reports, cash reports. If stuff does change, always be on the site. Changes are in yellow. NBA, there's no sport that changes as much as this one. Any changes in yellow, the boys constantly in Discord. Shout out NBA team. Rio always grinding, as you can tell, for the show. An awesome slate plan write-up like he has Monday through Friday. Want to shout out BJ and Ham, too. Awesome work they do, as you know. They're on these shows multiple times a week. Final thoughts before we get out of here. Like button, subscribe button. All we ask for. And if you want to join us, you know where to find us. SHIPITNation.com. Final thoughts, Rio.
No, hopefully everybody has a good night. Definitely one of the longer shows we've done this season with all that stuff hitting, but it was a fun one. Definitely feel very prepared going into it. Have a plan for the Jokic stuff because we've seen multiple times this season and just in the history of playing like NBA DFS, you lock up a lot of spots early and you miss out on news like Jokic or Damian Lillard getting ruled out. That could really pay off in a big way. And just now, even more so, like so much ownership is going to be condensed in that first 4 p.m. window. It's probably pretty good. But how much better will it look than if we get Jokic out news? I don't know, but definitely something to be prepared for, I would say.
Yeah, maybe Tambo talks about it sometimes. Maybe you want to build in sets. Obviously hard for NBA, but maybe a couple teams like Jokic is out. It's DeAndre Jordan starting. Maybe a couple teams that it's not. Not meaning I would play Jokic in those teams, but I'd be lighter on the Nuggets. What a slate, though. It's going to be a lot of fun, I assume. That won't be the last of the injury news. Again, everything will be updated. Awesome stuff, Rio. Was the longest show that I remember, but a lot of fun. Always good talking ball with you. And all the people in chat, you guys make it a lot of fun as well. We very much appreciate it. I do need this, the last take. Thoughts on this, Rio?
It's a banger. I don't know how you can say against that song. It's so hard not to like bob your head when you listen to it. TNT's playing it too. Like,
I know, crazy. That was cool. Yes, I saw that. That was cool. But I love seeing all the reactions in all the sports, like from football and Amara to the dude, the YouTubers going behind LaMelo on the bench and he was there saying it. Like, I love all that stuff. I like more country, some older stuff, but I do like a couple parts of that song. But I love it. Rio likes it. Appreciate every single one of you. Like button, subscribe button, helps us out a ton. Jake, appreciate you asking that too. Good luck, everybody. Have a good one. Be safe. We will be back Friday talking some. Today's Wednesday. Back Friday talking some hoops. MMA tomorrow. NFL Friday. Basketball Friday. For Rio, I'm Title Town. Be safe. Peace.